Welcome to another sermon from the Lewes Church of Christ. The sermon series for the month of June is called Post-it Notes. Each sermon is based on one-liners from the Apostle Paul. And now, here's Mark.
Happy Father's Day. If you're a dad in the audience, we need godly dads and fathers. Happy Father's Day. And we just want today to be an encouragement to you. If your next step at the church is membership, and you've been following the process, starting point, pathways, momentum, we're offering membership this coming Wednesday in the chat room at 6 o'clock. Just want to remind some of you about that, and that'll be a great thing. Great day of service next Saturday at 9 o'clock. Love to have as many as possible. Just working together, serving in compassion is going to be a great thing. I want to confess to you today that I am mad at Therese Kane. Just little confession time. About 3 months ago, Therese Kane agreed that she would be willing to do a little stand-up comedy on Mother's Day and Father's Day. And Mother's Day was good, right? That was fun. She's hilarious. I used to think she was hilarious. She emailed me 2 weeks ago and said, "Oh, Mark, I just remembered. I'm going to be in New Mexico on Father's Day. And sorry, dude, you're on." So she owes us one. And so when you see her, you could bug her about that, and that might spur that on a little bit. But ain't no Therese Kane happening today. So, but I remember back on Mother's Day, I thought, you know what, I sense that moms needed was just a big spiritual hug and something to smile about. Well, today it's Father's Day, and I kind of get this sense that the guys might need a good laugh and then maybe a good challenge. So here goes. I understand on one occasion Moses and Jesus and this older gentleman, older gentleman, they were golfing. They went golfing. So it's the first hole, and they're right at the first hole, and it is a short par 3 to get things started. However, there is water right in front of the green. So Moses gets up, tees off first, and hit the ball, and it went right into the water. And the other two just laughed and laughed and laughed. And Moses said, "You think that's funny? Watch this." So he walks down to the water, he parts the water. He chips up on the green like 2 inches for the cup. It was amazing. Chip up on the green. It was a gimme. Jesus gets up next, hits that ball, and daggone, it went right into the water as well. The other two just laughed and laughed. And Jesus says, "You keep laughing." He goes over, walks on top of the water. He calls the ball from the depths of the sea. Jesus chips off the water, and he goes in the cup for a birdie. It was amazing. It was an amazing shot. Then the old gentleman joining them, the old guy gets up, and he takes a shot, and sure enough, it was headed right to the water. But right before it hit the water, a fish jumped up and swallowed the golf ball. But at that same time, before the fish went back in the water, an eagle came and with his talons grabbed the fish and took off. As it was taking off, there was a little bit of struggle between the fish and the eagle, and it drops the fish, and it lands right on the green, chokes the fish, it spits out the ball, goes right in the cup. To which Jesus responded, "Nice shot, Dad." So I thought that was a good one. Now you can use that all week long. And I know, Bill Kidwell does a little driving he's going to be in the driver. He's going to tell that joke like 50 times this coming week. So how about this one? There was a businessman. He was on his way to a journey, on a business trip, and he was gone for about a week, and he just couldn't wait to get home. I mean, he couldn't wait to get home. And so, he's headed back, gets the airport late, and by the time he gets in the car and he drives home, he arrives home, but it's in the middle of the night. It's the middle of the night. In fact, unfortunately, there's a huge storm, and it's a crazy storm. The lightning is cracking, and it's just bad. but he just can't wait to get in his own bed. He's been gone a week, his own bed with his wife, his own head on his pillow. He just can't wait. So he gets home, he sneaks in, he goes upstairs, only to find out that in his bedroom, his 2 younger children, because they were scared of the storm, they crawled into bed with Mom, and they were sleeping with Mom, and they were sound asleep. So he goes down the hallway, goes in the guest room, and he, spends the night there. He sleeps there. The next morning, the kids realize Dad's home. They're all excited, but after he settled the excitement, he's like, kids, listen, when Dad's on away on a trip, the only thing he wants is to come home and sleep in his own bed. I just couldn't wait to get home, and I get home, and you're in the bed. I couldn't be in my own bed. I just wanted to sleep with Mom. Okay, you guys have to calm down, and you just have to get over a fear of a little storm. A few weeks later, he was on another business trip, and I was taking him away, and he was on his way home. This time, his family was going to the airport to pick him up. And so they're just waiting in the lobby, just running for the doors, waiting for Dad to come through the concourse. And then finally, they spot Dad. And here comes Dad and walking away through the concourse. And the 4-year-old boy, he just sees Dad, and he's so excited. He starts running through the concourse and just shouting at the top of his voice, Daddy, Daddy, I got good news. I got good news. And he's like, son, what is it? What is the good news? While you were gone, ain't nobody slept with Mama. Very good news. So, have any of you dreamed about or, what you want to do, not when you grow up, but when you get to heaven? You ever think about what you want to do when you get to heaven? I'm pretty sure we're going to be assigned some missions even in heaven. And I've thought about what I want to do when I get to heaven. And I've narrowed it down to 2 things. The first thing, when I get to heaven, I'm going to first apply for this position. I want to be a worship leader. Man, I just think that would be the coolest job in heaven, to be a worship leader, because my job as a preacher is going to be obsolete. When I get to heaven, I really don't think there's going to be any need for me to try to convince and persuade somebody to believe in Jesus. He's going to be right there. So my job as a preacher is obsolete. So I want to be a worship leader because I know that's going to happen. But if Jesus says, no, that's not for you, here's my I want to be stand-up comedy in heaven. I know that would be so cool. And if I get the position of stand-up comedy in heaven, please come see me at least once. Please. I promise I won't embarrass any of you. Scratch that. I probably will. But I just think that would be a cool thing. Today we continue our sermon series, Post-it Notes, for the month. We're in this series, Post-it Notes. Post-it Notes is a series on one-liners from the Apostle Paul. One-liners that we cannot afford to forget, right? And one-liners that maybe ought to write on a Post-it note and stick it everywhere so you don't forget about these things. Well, I have to tell you that the more I got into this Post-it note passage this week, the more I kept asking myself, why on earth would you choose this passage for Father's Day? Why would you do that? Well, here's the passage. It's Philippians chapter 1, verse 27, just the first part. And it says, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. And I can hear some of you thinking right now, really? That's what you would choose for Father's Day? Yeah, I'm kind of with you, and I'm not sure why, but actually I do know why. Here's why I chose this. Here's why I chose, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. It's because as I was brainstorming this sermon series, realizing today would be Father's Day, I kept thinking about my dad. And in my reflection of my dad, this is the one verse I can remember him clearly and frequently reminding me of. Mark, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. In fact, when I think of my dad, there are 2 verses of Scripture that I remember coming out of his mouth constantly, frequently. The first one was, whatever you do, do for the glory of God. Whatever you do, do for the glory of God. And then this one, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Now, I just want to say right off the bat, my intention today is not to beat up on dads. My intention today is really to encourage you with a great challenge. And here's the challenge. Whatever you do, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Now, God knows that dads don't need beat up, especially on Father's Day. Do we? I mean, being a dad is hard. Being a dad is exhausting. In fact, one of the most exhausting things as being a dad, is you are constantly fighting the feeling of feeling like a failure. In fact, dads often conclude this dad thing, it's an impossible task. It's an impossible task. And it's kind of like our text today. Whatever you do, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Whatever happens, you want me to conduct myself in the manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Whatever happens. When I hit my thumbnail with a hammer, the wrong nail, you want me to conduct myself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ? When my wife backs my car into the garage, not in the garage, but into the garage, you want me to respond, conduct myself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ? By the way, it's been years since that's happened. Don't worry about it. Years. And I have forgiven. Really? Whatever happens? When I receive a pink slip, you want me to conduct myself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ? When the doctor says, I'm sorry, it's cancer, you want me to conduct myself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ? When my 401k has just decreased by 50% in 1 week's time, you want me to conduct myself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ? Really? When I order steak medium rare and it comes out well done, Huh? When you get cut off in traffic on Route 1, you want me to conduct myself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ? When we lose the game because the umpire made a bogus call at home plate, you want me? Yeah. Mark, I can hear my dad. Mark, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Man, that's hard. Man, that's hard. And guys, we're talking here about our reaction to an unpleasant circumstance. It's one thing. It's one thing to behave well when you can plan it out and pray about it and make a plan for it. That's one thing. But to respond on the spot, to react in a way that's Christian, especially when it's a negative situation. Your car just got busted. We're talking about having a Christian reaction. Oh man, that's hard. And so we've got to start training our reactions to be Christ-like. And so whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Let me tell you why that's important. Let me tell you why we need to take that serious. My beliefs and my behaviors have to match. My beliefs and my behaviors have to match in order for the gospel of Jesus to prevail. It has to. I know that's a tall order, but we represent Jesus. We represent Jesus. And a profession of faith without the practice of faith is hypocrisy. You know that. A profession of faith without the practice of faith is hypocrisy. And one of the greatest obstacles standing in the way of people coming to Christ, faith in Christ, is our hypocrisy. Especially with our own children. My greatest fear as a dad is that my kids would have nothing to do with Jesus because of me. I heard a preacher say it like this: a discrepancy in a man, in a creed of a Christian man, and his conduct in his daily life is a terrible sin and a tremendous curse. Let me say that again. A discrepancy in a Christian man's creed and his daily conduct is a tremendous sin and a terrible curse. Happy Father's Day. What the world? You're going to bring that on Father's Day. Whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Mark? Yeah, where's Therese? Well, guys, can I remind you the truth? The truth is this: it's impossible. Guys, it is impossible to live Philippians 1:27 100% of the time. And that's kind of good news. Huh? It's impossible, really, to do that 100%. Whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. It's an impossible task, but it's still a great goal. It's still the goal. It's still the standard for which we need to achieve. Whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. I want to remind you that we're not saved because of our behavior. We're saved by grace, through faith, for good works that will glorify God. But really, it's an impossible task 100% of the time. But it's still a good goal. My daughter TJ called me a couple months ago from college, and she's upset. She was so stressed out. I mean, she was crying on the phone. I mean, she's almost panicked because she is taking this class, accounting. She's not real, and she's musical. She's not mathematical, although they should be going hand in hand. But she is stressing out because of this course she's taking in college, accounting. And according to the degree she's pursuing, a music business degree, she needs accounting. But she's stressed out. In fact, when she calls me, she's 3/4 of the way into the semester, and she wants to drop the class. I mean, more than anything, she wants to drop this class. So she calls me. She's all stressed out, and she's going nuts. Dad, I can't get it. I can't handle it. I don't understand anything's happening. Well, honey, just calm down. I think you're going to be fine. What if you go make an appointment with your academic dean? So she did. To make matters worse, the professor has already announced to the whole class it is next to impossible for any of you to get an A. In fact, I can guarantee none of you in the class is going to get an A. Okay. I said, well, go talk to your academic dean and just, he's going to steer you in a good way. Don't drop the class yet. She goes and talks to the academic dean, and the dean there really likes TJ, and he's like, listen, you're going to be okay. Just hang in there, endure. I know it's a hard class. All the reports are it's almost an impossible task, but you're going to be okay. You just trust me. You endure. You hang in there. You're going to be okay. And then he said this to her, and I thought it was interesting. He said, now I want you to remember, TJ, that a C in accounting, in light of your degree, a C in accounting is way more valuable than an A in psychology. To which she responded, yeah, but I don't think I'm even going to be close to a C. I mean, she was bugged out. She was bugged out. Well, she endured. Semester's over. She endured. She hung in there, and she did fine. She didn't get an A, but she did fine. And in looking back, she realizes the struggle of that pressure, the struggle of that class, the wrestling through that class was actually a really good thing for her. In fact, she would say, I matured myself. I matured me through that process. I hated it, but it was good for me. Hey guys, when it comes to conducting yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ, you may not get an A. But you hang in there. You keep that as your goal. You keep that as a standard. You hang in there. Because the wrestling through that, the attempt is going to be good for you. In fact, you may not ever mature unless you go through that. You hang in there. And just to remind you, we're not saved because of our behavior. We're saved by grace. We're saved through faith. We're saved for good works that's going to glorify Him. So, here's the deal. Whatever happens, you conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. And guys, when you find out that you just failed, admit it, apologize, and get back on track. Amen? I want to finish today with a really cool dad story. Or at least I think it's cool. This dad tells of the story of sending his 8-year-old boy to church camp. He thought, man, what a great thing, send your kid to church camp. His boy is returning from church camp. He gets home, and it's time to put him to bed, and the boy won't go to bed. What's wrong? Why aren't you going to bed? I'm scared to death. I'm scared to go to sleep. Well, why are you scared to go to sleep? And then the boy shared that at camp, all week long, all they did was sermons about Satan and all the demons. And that they're everywhere. And he was scared to death. Dad, I am scared to death. And the dad asked the question, what do you tell your 8-year-old boy who's scared to go to sleep because of demons? What do you tell him? That's a good question. Do you say, oh, that's not real. It'll be all right. You're going to be fine. That's not true, right? It is real. What do you tell him? What do you tell your 8-year-olds asking questions about demons and the devil and what do you say? Do you say, yeah, devil's real? I mean, like a roaring lion. He's got demons everywhere. He's the prince of the earth. I mean, he's got a whole host of demons, and they're everywhere, and they're invisible. And there are probably some in your room right now. You're going to be fine. Good night. You can't say that either. And this boy was so scared. He was scared to death. And he said, Daddy, would you just pray for me? Daddy, would you just pray? Just pray that I be saved. And the dad said, I'm not going to pray that. Because in the dad's mind, and like in my mind, when it comes to my boys following Jesus, I don't want them seeking a safe life. What is that? The dad said, I'm not going to pray, son, that you be saved. And the boy's eyes got real big. And he says, you know what I'm going to pray, son? I'm going to pray that you are dangerous. I'm going to pray that in the realm of spiritual warfare, you are dangerous. I'm going to pray that the devil is going to be afraid of you. I'm going to pray that the demons will leave every time you walk into the room. Son, I want you dangerous. And the boy says, all right. So, Dad, pray that I'm really dangerous. Guys, I will never pray for you to be saved. I'm going to pray that you're dangerous. That you are so dangerous in advancing the kingdom of Jesus. That's my prayer. Whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ.
This has been a presentation of the Lewes Church of Christ. We are located at 15183 Coastal Highway, Milton, Delaware, 3 miles north of Lewes on Highway 1. Our service times are 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. every Sunday morning.